Hey, all right. Now, just a little kick in the tires there, and now we have audio. So sorry. Now we have audio again, but will we lose it again? That's the big question. Okay, well, I'll keep my eye on that video monitor, and you keep your eye on the back of my head. And let's see. Now we have audio again. Okay. But will we lose it again? That's the big question. Okay, well, I'll keep my eye on that video monitor and on the back of my head. Oh, look at that. Now we've got 2 channels of audio. All right, cool. Hopefully it stays working. And I'm going to go ahead and mute my stuff over here. And keep an eye on things. And once again, I will say welcome. Hello. I think audio is good. You can watch me type. There we go. All right. So things seem to be working. And now I can settle in, make sure I don't run over any cords here, and actually give you a proper hello. Am I distorting? I don't know. I guess we'll find out as we proceed. Go ahead and close that out. Close that, close that. Anything I don't need should go away. All right. Does that work? Okay, that might work. That might work better, as a matter of fact. I'm just going to get loop back out of this. Of course, now we have mono audio. This is the greatest live stream ever, I'm fairly certain. Advanced audio properties, mono. There we go. So now your head, if you have earphones on, your head is filled with my voice. Okay, so I'm going to confirm once again with the people out here. Okay, how about now? Okay, there we go. I'm watching me from like 30 seconds ago, and I look very confused. And hopefully the YouTube is okay. Yes. Okay, everything seems to be working, and my computer is not overheating. All right, so now that you've enjoyed 7 minutes of watching me figure stuff out, I can actually start to say hello. And welcome to today's live stream. We are going to make All right, now I'm back. Now I have audio. This is why I pre-recorded content this morning, because it's hard enough as it is. Okay, cool. So how about I just go ahead and get started. And I've got enough intro and material here. And I will start playing stuff. So let's see. I'll go to my nice arrangement here. And welcome to version 2 of the Max tutorials. The first session we sort of focused on getting started with Max, getting the morph in, figuring out some different strategies of how we could make the morph interesting, and also for people who are not familiar with Max, giving some introduction as far as like what it's about, and why it's different, and why you might even want to use it in the first place, or maybe not use it. So this session, what I want to focus on is using the sort of raw meat of the morph. So because the morph is a high dynamic range, high resolution pressure sensor, we can get a ton of information about contacts on it and from our fingers, or elbows, or cheeks, or nose, or whatever you put on it. Welcome to version 2 of the Max tutorials. The first session we sort of focused on getting started with Max, getting the morph in, figuring out some different strategies of how we could make the morph interesting, and also for people who are not familiar with Max, giving some introduction as far as like what it's about, and why it's different, and why you might even want to use it in the first place, or maybe not use it. So this session, what I want to focus on is using the sort of raw meat of the morph. So because the morph is a high dynamic range, high resolution pressure sensor, we can get a ton of information about contacts on it and from our fingers, or elbows, or cheeks, or nose, or whatever you put on it. So there's a special object that you can get from the package manager called the Stencil Object, and that gives you all the raw information from your contacts on the morph, and it takes that into Max and allows you to apply it at high resolution to different objects to composition or directly attached to sound. So these different examples are going to sort of take different approaches as to how you want to use it for things that are very direct and very obvious. We'll also want to sort of break out some of the touches and sort of create zones, so you can sort of say, well, this part of the morph is going to operate in this way, this part of the morph is going to operate in a different way. What are some of the Max objects that are really advantageous to use? And what's cool about it? What's unique? It's really kind of like a really great way to access multi-touch, multi-pressure data and really just start linking it up to things and trying things out. So I'm excited about these examples. There's a lot to go through, so let's check it out. Here's where I put the new DVD in, and so we're going to put the new DVD in. Here we go. This first example I want to show is working with kind of a very simple granular synthesis. So what it does is it just plays a very small loop of a sound file. What I'm going to be able to do, though, is have a very simple granular patch and then just multiply it many times and control it with each finger. So unlike a lot of other granular synthesizers where you kind of have to build in a lot of mechanism to spread out the grains or change their position or have them move around, instead of programming that stuff, you just do it with your hands. So this is sort of, so this first example I want to show is working with kind of a very simple granular synthesis. So what it does is it just plays a very small loop of a sound file. What I'm going to be able to do, though, is have a very simple granular patch and then just multiply it many times and control it with each finger. So unlike a lot of other granular synthesizers where you kind of have to build in a lot of mechanism to spread out the grains or change their position or have them move around, instead of programming that stuff, you just do it with your hands. So this is sort of granular synthesis turned into sculpture, clay, putty, whatever. Whatever metaphor you want to use. It's interactive. So let's take a look at the patch. What I'll first do is give you an example, and then I'll take you through the patch so we understand what the mechanism is and the strategy for getting the Morph API data in and making use of it. All right, so let's switch to this view, and you can see the patch looks very simple. So the first thing I need to do is record just some input. So this, what we're using is just a memory, some audio loaded into memory. We could load a sound file in here if we want, but with Granular, I kind of find voices are a nice way to sort of give an example of it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so Now I've got my counting there, and let's try a finger. All right, I'll turn it up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So you can see on this y-axis, I'm just scrubbing through the file. On the x-axis, I control the pitch.
1,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
7.
And then my pressure is sort of changing the window, the sort of the size of that sample, how much we're listening to. So if I have a very light touch, it's a very small window.
2, 3.
So I'm hearing more of the sound file
3,
as I press harder.
3.
Now let's get multiple fingers involved.
2,
Utter chaos. It's beautiful.
2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2.
5, 2, 3. So already, I'm just having fun and ignoring everybody out there. So how does this work with the Stencil object? So to get started with the Stencil object, let's get familiar with the package manager. Many of you are probably already familiar with that, and that's in the File menu, Packages, and then just search for Sensel. And you'll see this come up, and then you just install the package, and it installs the help files and a couple objects. One object is the Stencil object, which gives you contact info. Let's take a look at that, what that looks like. So I'll go ahead and open the help file, hold down Option, and click on it. And what it outputs is a big dictionary. So I'll take a look at a single contact here. And you can see we're getting all of this information about one single contact. X, Y, and force, which is a lot of time like, yeah, that's the bare minimum of what we want. But there's also area, so the sort of fatness of your contact. So if I press harder usually gives you a bigger area, but you can also have a light touch with a big area. So you look at the area is around 400 with a low force. There's the area which is about the same, but also a low force. It's a smaller area, sorry. So you know, you can sort of, they're not completely orthogonal, but you can make a distinction. And that may be interesting. You also get information about sort of the ellipse that's formed from the pad and the contact, and it gives you an orientation. You can see this value here is this orientation is sort of rotation. Orientation is sort of rotation figure metric. So there's a bunch of information like the box, and then all the delta information is how much change. Sorry about that. We had a crash of OBS, so I'm just getting us back up and started to where we were. And so I was talking about the area on this. All right. I hope this one survives. This orientation is sort of rotation figure metric. So there's a bunch of information like the box, and then all the delta information is how much changing. Gives you the peak values for a particular contact. It gives you the contact ID. Also interesting is, let me reset the view here, is that when you have two contacts, you know, they're ID'd as 1 and 2. When you release one, you still maintain that 2 ID. So that's also pretty interesting and from an interaction standpoint. So I'm taking all that data and breaking it up. It comes out as what's called a dictionary in Max, which is kind of like a very complicated list, almost a database. I also use this nice little abstraction. There's kind of a hole, a bug in the implementation of the Stencil Object that it doesn't tell you when you release. So this little thing, this create zero force, thank you Loudon from Berklee College of Music. He sent this over as a little fix, so you get release information. And then I just send all this data to this send morph, and that's received in whatever I need to control. So this is the poly object. If you're familiar with Max, you'll know it as a way to sort of open a particular patch many times. So when I see this poly A buffer 8, it's opening this A buffer patch 8 times in my, and so that gives me 8 contacts. And each one is exactly the same, but we get a little index that lets us know which instance we're working with to make them unique. And then that's where I sort of parse all the information from the dictionary. So you can see here's my receive morph. I'm just sending it from one place. And then I unpack all of that. And I get the X, Y, force, and I'm not using the deltas. And you can see the X value here is changing. And then I scale that. So everything's in millimeters. So I want to make it so that it actually makes sense to whatever I'm controlling. So in this case, it's X is pitch, so it's -12 to 12 times. And Y is the location in milliseconds. It's a 5,000 millisecond buffer. And then the force I'm using to scale the window. So again, it's a millisecond window. And then I just apply all of that to a simple groove object using some time stretch stuff. So you can hear that it's not the best granulator. There's a lot of clicks and artifacts. But for the sake of example, it simplifies things and it makes it very easy to demonstrate the idea. If you really wanted to get into doing granular synthesis, there's a lot of other things that can help you. Look up Nathan Woleck's objects, or you can just use a buffer and some basic max patching around that. And then each contact is coming out here, so I have all of the audio from those 8 contacts coming out of poly, and then I can control the volume and send it out to you and play my musical masterpiece. And of course, if you want to expand it, you can start playing around with beep and start adding effects and things like that. So that is kind of like the first simple example of using multiple contacts on a simple max patch and using the X, Y, and force, and then generating complexity from something that's fairly elementary. All right, cool. So that was a rocky sort of presentation in that things crashed in the middle. Let's move on to the next presentation. So the point of that was like, I'm sorry that got all sort of jumbled up, but yeah, so you get the multiple fingers. It's like an MPE synthesizer, and that you have per note expression, but you can move it anywhere on the pad. You're not just restricted to, a particular shape or a particular interface. So it really kind of changes how you interact with it. Let's go ahead and try another video. So this one is pretty cool. So I'm going to go turn that one off and let's see if it gets. All right, so we've had a couple of audio examples, but this is Max, and you can control audio, samples, synthesizers, spatialization, but you can, of course, also control video, and that can be video files, or you can use visual generators with OpenGL and bitmap stuff. So let's see what we can do with visuals. And again, this is a really kind of simple example that allows us to draw information. It's just kind of like a schematic type thing. But you can see how you can apply the contact information from the Morph and get a good sense of what's happening when you actually are touching it. The other cool thing is that this. All right, so we've had a couple of audio examples, but this is Max, and you can control audio, samples, synthesizers, spatialization, but you can, of course, also control video, and that can be video files, or you can use visual generators with OpenGL and bitmap stuff. So let's see what we can do with visuals. And again, this is a really kind of simple example that allows us to draw information. It's just kind of like a schematic type thing. But you can see how you can apply the contact information from the Morph and get a good sense of what's happening when you actually are touching it. The other cool thing is that this patch has some OpenGL examples too, so you can see like how to draw circles, and then you can take this and pull it apart and add your own sort of interesting things to how everything is drawn to the screen. So this can get you started with getting touches into the visual realm, as well as getting familiar with how some of the OpenGL stuff works. So let's and I have this patch open. This is called Sensel Basic Contact Drawing. So let's take a look at what this actually does. When I touch the device, we'll get a contact, and it's got labels that sort of show information about it. And in this case, the labels are actually faked. But if you were using this to try that again. So yeah, lots of glitches, as I was saying. Everything's crashing over here. Nothing's happy. I'm not happy. You're not happy. This is no fun. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to reschedule. I actually don't really need to reschedule. I'd hoped to build some sort of community around this, but there's too much of a hassle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload all of the videos that I've recorded. It has all this content, all the patches that are on GitHub. So sorry this was such a bummer, technically. And we will live to fight another day. But we will keep you posted when those videos are up. And we'll let you know on social media and everything. We'll send out a newsletter when everything's up. It should only be probably a couple of days, early next week. All the patches are easy to access on GitHub, so you can start digging into those right now, and then you'll have video guides in the next couple of days to be able to guide you and get you rolling on those. So again, I'm really sorry about the technical difficulties. Everything's crashing, even with the latest and greatest gear. I hope you have a good Friday or a good Thursday. see, who knows what day it is. And a good rest of the week. And I look forward to getting this content out to you. All right. Take care. Have a good night wherever you are.